Welcome to Blackcomb Helicopter's Audit Manual training. This training is provided to give a brief overview to BHLP auditors of the auditing activities and procedures documented in the company's audit manual. Completion of the training assists in a consistent approach to auditing activities by all staff throughout the company. In particular, this training will cover the following elements of the audit program: who the audit manual is applicable to, where you can find it, and really what it is all about. Terminology used throughout the audit process. This will attempt to ensure that we all understand each other. The types of audits that BHLP carries out. How audit teams are compiled and what each person's roles are throughout the audit. The audit process, from pre-audit all the way through to post-audit, and where more information can be found if there are questions throughout the audit process. Who, what, and where. Who. This manual is to be referenced by staff of Blackcomb Helicopters that conduct auditing activities such as spot checks, internal audits, and vendor audits. What. The audit manual documents the procedures for carrying out audit activities. It has been devised to provide a standard and consistent approach to auditing at BHLP. It covers activities such as preparing for an audit, conducting the audit, including sampling, preparing an audit report, conducting vendor quality surveys, and on-site vendor audits. Where? You can find a controlled copy of this manual in the document library in DATS. It is under the section Company Manuals and is DIR 28. Alternatively, you can search Company Library Files for Audit Manual. Terminology. During the auditing process, the following terms are likely to be used. Here is a quick overview of what is meant by these terms. Evidence-based audit. It is a rational method for reaching reliable and reproducible audit conclusions in a systematic audit process. Our auditing processes center around the evaluation of an audit criteria based on audit evidence. Audit evidence. Records, statements of fact, or other information which is relevant to the audit criteria and is verifiable. This is documentation such as tracking sheets, maintenance report envelopes, purchase orders, lease agreements, etc. Audit findings are the results of evaluations of audit evidence against audit criteria. These can indicate compliance or non-compliance with the audit criteria. These findings will be documented on the audit checklist. Non-compliance reports. NCRs are the reports generated where it is identified that there is a non-fulfillment of a requirement or failure to meet a standard. At BHLP, these are available for review in DATS. Scope. Scope is the extent and boundaries of an audit, including the number of functional areas within a company that will be audited, locations, activities or processes, and time frames of audit evidence that is subject to review. Types of audits. The internal audit. Internal audits are conducted by BHLP for BHLP management system. For each internal audit, one or two management systems will be evaluated for one or all of either compliance with documented procedures, compliance with regulatory requirements, compliance with customer requirements, evaluation of procedures' effectiveness in achieving the results expected, or evaluation of how things are done in person as opposed to how they are documented. Internal audits are conducted annually and are a Transport Canada requirement. They may be carried out by several auditors in a one-week block or by one auditor over a progressive timeline. BHLP is in the process of implementing a progressive audit timeline. Types of audits. Spot checks. Spot checks are carried out throughout the year, primarily by BHLP's Quality Assurance Department. They are generally informal in nature and will have a single focus. For example, a spot check might be completed on the currency of technical publications, or on the defect reporting process. The aim of spot checks are to evaluate continued compliance, identify areas for improvement, or identify trends. Types of audits. Vendors. BHLP conducts two types of vendor audits. The first is the Vendor Quality Survey. In this process, stores personnel sends new vendors a survey to complete. This enables BHLP to obtain copies of documents that affirm the organization's credentials and scope of work that they are able to carry out. Stores personnel renew this information every 3 years. The second is an on-site audit at the vendor's place of business. This is an opportunity for BHLP to review processes described in the VQS. It also allows for BHLP to review the tools, equipment, facilities, and processes employed by the vendor. The audit team. The audit team will be assembled for each audit carried out and may consist of persons in the roles as demonstrated on the screen. Spot checks and VQSs will be conducted as part of the quality assurance program. Therefore, an audit team is not required. This composition is primarily for internal audits and on-site vendor audits. Each person will be selected because of their knowledge, skills, and experience. At all times, the audit team must be independent from the process which they are auditing. They are to be released from their regular duties and not audit areas for which they are responsible. Audit team members are also to ensure that they act in a professional manner and maintain confidentiality throughout the audit process. The audit manager will organize the audit, select persons for the audit team, and prepare all pre-audit documentation. They are the liaison between the audit client and the audit team. The team leader is appointed when multiple management systems are being audited. They are to ensure team members are conducting the audit in accordance with the audit manual, that team members have resources they require to conduct their audits, and review and verify the audit findings. Team members are the individuals that are to carry out the on-site review of audit evidence and complete the audit checklists. They will carry out interviews, conduct sampling, and evaluate the effectiveness of the systems in place. Where an observer has been selected, this person will accompany the audit team, but are not to conduct any aspect of the audit themselves. They are to learn about the audit process and therefore observe the activities being carried out. A specialist or technical expert is occasionally included in the audit team to provide specific knowledge regarding a process or organization. They will be assigned duties by the audit manager and will assist team members as appropriate. The audit process. The audit process is broken down into 3 distinct sections: the pre-audit, physical audit, and the post-audit. Each person has different tasks to complete at each stage of the audit, including the audit client. The audit manual provides details on who needs to complete what and when they need to have it completed by. During the pre-audit stage, the audit manager will liaise with the audit client to determine audit objectives and the audit plan. They will set up the appropriate documentation and DATs to ensure that all aspects of the audit are scheduled as per the audit plan. The physical audit stage occurs when the audit team arrives on site to conduct their review of the audit evidence and make their evaluations. They will conduct interviews and carry out sampling in order to evaluate and complete their checklists. At the post-audit phase, the audit client is presented with their audit report, and they must then develop their corrective action plans, conduct root cause analysis, and follow up to determine if the issue identified has reoccurred. The audit process, pre-audit. While more details can be found in the audit manual regarding the pre-audit process, here a brief focus will be on the audit records, document review, and the audit checklist. Audit records generated during an internal audit will be maintained in DATS as an event. The audit manual has an appendix that describes how to create the event for audit records. It also provides details on audit records for other types of audits, such as VQSs, on-site audits of vendors, and spot checks. Within the event in DATS, there will be different tasks for each step of the audit. Here is a sample. This helps to ensure no tasks are forgotten and all documentation generated throughout the audit is on record. This might include scanning the documentation and attaching it to the appropriate task. The audit team are to present any documentation used or generated throughout the audit to the audit manager, who is responsible for ensuring all tasks are completed. Appropriate documentation to keep on file includes sampling information, copies of documents reviewed, details of interviews held, and all audit checklists. During the document review stage, it is expected that the audit team review all applicable manuals, including the audit manual, worksheets, work instructions, and alike in order to become familiar with the documented policies and procedures for the audit client. Documents reviewed are to be attached to the appropriate task in the DATS event, as a record of what was reviewed. At this time, some areas of compliance and non-compliance might be identified where it is required for the audit team to evaluate if a policy and procedure is documented to meet requirements. For example, a car requirement. Audit checklists are used throughout the audit to guide the auditor through the process of auditing. For some audits, they will be less company-specific, such as those for on-site audits, which are in DATS, and for others, they will identify specific policies and procedures. Audit checklists are to be reviewed in the document review stage for applicability. When the audit team is writing audit checklists, the checklists are to include a reference to the functional area being evaluated, a reference to the policy or procedure that is being evaluated, check boxes for the auditor to identify the result of the evaluation, such as NA, OK, or non-compliance, a space to record details of the evaluation and why a particular checkbox was chosen. This space might also reference where comments can be found, such as sampling records, a space on each page to record the auditor's initials and the date the checklist was completed, and a space at the end of the checklist section to record a summary of the evaluations made. The audit process, physical audit. During the physical audit stage, the audit team will be on site with the audit client and will be evaluating the audit criteria for compliance and non-compliance based on the audit evidence reviewed. This is also the time where the audit team will be identifying if personnel completing tasks and activities are in accordance with documented procedures. Conducting the physical audit will include conducting meetings, interviews, sampling, and completing audit checklists. We will focus on the last two in the next two slides. Sampling is the inspection of a representative portion of a population. BHLP uses the zero-based sampling method to conduct random sampling. This table is located in the audit manual and will assist with determining your sampling size. Let's run through a scenario. As the audit team member, you are required to sample purchase orders to determine if they contain all the information as required in the policy documented. There have been 1,000 POs generated within the audit period being evaluated. Reviewing all these POs would take days. This is why we sample. Identifying that your lot size is 1,000, you locate this box on the left-hand side of the table. Your audit manager has identified that your sampling acceptable quality level will be 0.65%. Locate this box on the top row. Now move along the table until these two lines meet. This is what your sampling size will be. In this example, it would be 47. From here, you can use the random number generator on the Industry Canada website to identify the records that you will review as part of your sampling. There are details about how to generate this information in Blackcomb Aviation Quality Assurance Work Instruction number 4 and 5, which are available in the DATS document library. It is important to note that not only do audit checklists guide the auditor through an evaluation process, they also are the auditor's means of communication of why they have evaluated a policy, procedure, or other audit criteria in the way that they have. Therefore, audit checklists should be completed in full. The layout of the checklist may be different between different audits. However, they will contain the same elements. This is an example of an internal audit checklist, and the following is required to be completed. Document all the information obtained during the evaluation process in the box associated with that procedure. Select the appropriate checkbox for the final evaluation result. If NA is selected, a reason must be provided why. Identify yourself at the bottom of the page along with the date the audit was completed. And at the end of auditing a particular section, a summary is to be provided that includes identifying the auditor by name and the date the summary was written. All audit checklists are to be completed in pen to ensure notes are permanent and unable to be erased. If at any time a non-compliance is identified and it is an immediate safety risk, this is to be brought to the attention of the audit manager, who will inform the audit client to implement immediate corrective action. The audit process, post-audit. Now that the physical audit is over, what is left for the audit team to carry out? Not much, really. The audit manager will prepare an audit report for the audit client, identifying the details of the audit and the findings made. In some cases, the audit report will identify if the audit client will remain eligible to provide services to BHLP. Where an internal audit is conducted, the audit manager will also submit NCR forms in DATS for each non-compliance identified during the audit. The audit client, or the department manager in the case of an internal audit, is then to address each finding as per the audit manual. Blackcomb Aviation Quality Assurance Work Instruction number 6 provides details on how to enter the non-compliance into DATS. More information. If at any time throughout the audit process you have questions about how things are to be carried out, recorded, or addressed, you can reference the audit manual, as this documents the procedures for all audit activities, or ask the audit manager.